Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Control Alt Denise, and I talk about all things tech as well as lifestyle. So today I want to talk to you guys about my first week in the boot camp. It definitely has been an experience already, even though it's only been a week, but I'll get more into that. So for those of you who don't know or haven't been able to watch any of my videos, I am a career transitioner out of the pre-medical, biomedical science world into tech. I decided to do it during COVID-19. And originally I was going to take this class last year, around April, May. And I'll go into in later videos more of my journey about what kind of stopped me at that time. But essentially I decided that the studying that I was doing, I felt confident enough that I might be able to do it on my own. And I ended up, instead of enrolling back in June, I ended up studying and thinking that, and not thinking that, but I would say that thinking that I was just gonna be able to do it on my own. And kudos to people who could, but for me, I personally got stuck on JavaScript. I don't know why, it just wasn't clicking for me, wasn't really grasping it. Like, I understood the logic, and I still understand. At the time, I understood the logic behind it, but the application just was not clicking for me. So I bypassed and kind of did HTML, CSS, looked into Python for a little bit, but ultimately I decided to do a boot camp because I knew that I would not be able to escape JavaScript, in looking for a changing career or like a new career path. I knew at some point down the line, from what I've read online and seen, at some point I may interact with JavaScript again. So I'd rather like learn the hardest, or what to me so far in my journey has been the hardest language for me, and then I can, go on to something a little bit more digestible. So with that being said, I had about a year, actually not a year, I would say maybe like 6 to 8 months of me studying on my own, doing my own thing. I wouldn't say that I was super disciplined, but I feel like I tried. But ultimately it led me back to the boot camp. So I decided to enroll in the boot camp. I started last Monday. And it has been such a humbling experience throughout my entire time at the pre-work. So I reached back out and I was like, hey, I reached out in February and I was like, hey, I'm interested. I submitted another inquiry form and I was like, hey, I'm interested in doing the boot camp again. I'm sending this contact, I'm reaching out to contact to see if I can, get accepted again. So because it wasn't such a long time, there wasn't that long of a period between me doing the pre-work last year and trying to enroll now, it became an issue for me when I was trying to enroll, and then because I had done the pre-work last year, it was still valid. So I did not have to do the pre-work when I reached back out. I just had to do another interview to show them what I had been working on in the meantime. And then I think I had to figure out how I was gonna finance it. Last year I didn't want to do any ISA. I didn't really like the reviews, but this year I was just like, you know what? I still don't have the money, so let me just go ahead and sign this ISA and I'll figure it out after the fact. I just was ready to make that transition. I was turning 30. When I reached out, I think I was turning 30 within the next 2 weeks. I was like, you know what? This is the time to do it. Let's just do it. I wanted to start my new decade, my new year decade fresh. So ended up doing it. Now, the downside to me not having to do the pre-work early was that I kind of forgot everything. I forgot everything in the sense of I've been using Bootstrap and HTML and CSS. So those things it wasn't a difficult, but I had an assignment that was due before the class, the week before the class started, and it was sitting in the pre-work. Well, I did the pre-work last year. So I didn't think that applied to me because I'd already done the pre-work, I'd already submitted it, I'd already passed the test, I'd already passed the assessment, but they reached out to me and told me I still had to do it. So I had to go find out where in the pre-work this rock, paper, scissors thing was. And then I had to kind of relearn enough JavaScript, but I did not reach out until the week before the class. I didn't reach out till maybe Monday, and I think it was due by Wednesday. So I had to quickly just learn what I could so that I could complete this pre-work, because I had a mandatory, they call it 101 with our essentially it's called an instructional associate, but essentially for those people who aren't in the world, it's kind of like a TA, like a teaching assistant. So I had to kind of scramble and was like, okay, let me just figure out how to do this real quick. And at the time I was still working, so I'm like trying to balance both, right? So I did that, I submitted that, I got to the end. The only thing I wasn't really able to do was I worked through the problems, but at some point I got stuck. So it was kind of like a code along. So if you were kind of stuck on the issue, then you were able to go ahead and like look at sneak peeks and hints. So I was like, okay, this is kind of reaffirming why I signed up for the bootcamp in the first place. Now, on to week one. So week one was a humbling experience. The first day was mainly, we didn't really, I was nervous leading up to it. So I was like, I asked my mom, was like, can you pray for me? I don't know why I was nervous. I'm naturally not a nervous person. I'm naturally not an anxious person. I don't get anxiety. I'm just like, okay, let's go. I got this, da da da. But for whatever reason, I was so nervous. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just because I put so much emphasis into this and this is something I really wanted to do, or I don't know, like I could not answer or tell you why I was nervous, but I could just tell you I was nervous. I've never been nervous like this. So she prayed for me, whatever. The first day was mainly like installing all the applications that we'd be using throughout the course. And my computer, like, it was not having it. I was so behind on everything. Because first I didn't have enough space, even though on the thing I had told them I had enough space, but I had to end up deleting so many things. I mean, they were useless anyways. I've had my computer since 2014. So that's another thing. If you're doing the program or interested in the program, make sure you either have a computer that's somewhat up to date. Mine's 2014. It's currently 2021. So it's only been, it's been 7 years, but I think if you can afford to maybe get a newer computer that's more empty, I think that'd be better. But I've been through undergrad with that computer. I've been through 2 master's programs. So I had a lot of like papers and books. A lot of what was sitting on my computer that was taking up a lot of space was books. So I ended up deleting a lot of that stuff. So keep that in mind, to like when they say that you need that space, you do genuinely need that space. The first day was mainly like us installing things, getting things set up, introducing us to Slack, our professors, da 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 da. Okay, fine. It was a little stressful because trying to install on a computer and delete things off of a computer can be time consuming, and we're in class. So I'm on the West Coast time because I'm taking the class on the West Coast. So that means for me, it's 9 to 5 over there, it's 12 to 8 over here. And so I know I only have this time frame to work with them, being on the West Coast, me being on the East, where, I could stay later, but like now we're leaning into 9, 10 o'clock. So I wanted to make sure I got everything while I still had them at my assistance. So that was mainly the first day. Second day, humble. I already looked at the schedule. So they'll give you like the week before, they'll tell you, they'll give you like what we'll be working on, but usually the day before and every day before the class, or maybe like an hour before the class, or 30 to 45 minutes, just depending on like when they post. We wouldn't find out what we were working on until that day. So I would have a general idea. So when I saw that the first unit was like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, I was like, okay, like JavaScript I'm not the strongest on, but I do have some kind of foundation. HTML, CSS, I have some kind of foundation. Nope. Day two humbled me. When I say it humbled me, I was sitting there like stressed. I was stressed out. I was so stressed out. I was like, because that was our first day of actual class when we're sitting here and actually learning. And I was just like, ooh, this is a lot. Like, how am I about to survive? Like, I was sitting on this computer from 12 to 8 p.m. and they're just going. I'm like, So after day 2, I was stressed. I was like, I'm gonna have to figure something out. So what I ended up doing, and I think what I'm gonna do a video on, is how I take notes for the class, because I have to write or type, but usually write. It's just better for me. I understand. I can understand the concepts. I can add notes. Like this whole like taking notes while I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It wasn't working for me. And I was stressed trying to figure out how I was about to sit here and relearn. So one thing I will say is that you sign up, really hone in on what your note taking or how you study works for you. So for me, prior to the program, I was in grad school. I have an iPad and I bought an iPad. I had a previous iPad, but it was old. So I bought an iPad. I've had this app called Notability, and that's what I used to use in grad school with the PowerPoints to take notes. So this isn't PowerPoint based, but they do give us PDFs. So I was like, okay, let me just hone in on what worked for me in grad school. And in grad school, what worked for me is downloading the PowerPoint so that when I would come to class, I would use my little Apple Pencil on my iPad and I would write notes on it, take notes on it. So when I was reviewing or like a star highlight, without having to waste paper or printing it out. Back in the day, I used to print out the notes on like 4x4 per page. But now that I'm like, I don't even have a printer. I mean, my leasing office has a printer, but I don't personally have a printer. I was like, how am I about to sit here and figure this out? So I was like, girl, you have an iPad. Like all I'm doing right now with it is watching movies since I'm no longer in school or enrolled in school. So now I download the PDF. I copy and paste it into Google Docs. I download the PDF and I import it into Notability, and I take notes using that. So I'm gonna do a video on that, on how exactly I do that. But I decided to implement that for day 3 because I was so stressed out trying to figure out how I was gonna learn all these notes without having to waste my time rewriting all the notes and then adding the notes that I add. I knew I didn't have a lot of time because I am 12 to 8. Everybody else is 9 to 5. And I had things that I do in the morning before I actually start the program. So I knew I didn't also have the mornings to sit here and rewrite notes. And that just becomes very time consuming. So I started to implement that for day 3. And I feel like that made such a difference. But now I had to go back and I had to redo that process for day 2. So day 2 was very humbling because we're doing we start a little bit of JavaScript with functions and scopes and things like that. But one other thing I would say is that, they say the people that do the best or succeed tend to have done some of this stuff outside of class or prior. They're not coming in fresh. I can also tell you that day 2 and 3 were very humbling for me because I had that experience. So I was confident and I was like, okay, well, I do have a little under a year of experience on my own doing it. I just want to make sure that when I'm being taught it, I don't want to zone out just because I think I know. I want to come into this as if I've never done it before. It doesn't matter how much I had done it before. I was lost in the sauce. I was like, are you sure you've done this before? Are you sure you studied this before? I guess it's so fast paced that you have to study maybe before class, after class, and make sure you take your own notes, highlight, star what you don't know, and take that time on your own, whether it be YouTube or the resources that they provide, to really hone in, because it's going so quickly that I was lost and I had some kind of background. I can only imagine my classmates or people who are not in the program, or who, this is their first time really touching anything. I can only imagine how they feel without putting in that work behind the scenes. So if you're starting a boot camp and you don't have any coding experience, my recommendation would be that you have to also understand that there's a lot of time that you have to put in behind the scenes. They would give us time to do our homework in class and we can talk to them and ask questions. And I think doing the homework definitely kind of solidifies it, but you also have to take that time after class, whether it be to just go through the notes yourself, look out other resources, free Code Camp, Codecademy. I have the Angela Yu Web Development Bootcamp. Go through those resources and really make sure you understand, because they're moving so quickly that you don't really have time. You're going to learn functions and scopes, and you're not that you're never going to see it again, but they're going to expect you the next day to be able to implement it. So week 1 was kind of a struggle for me because I was getting that pace of okay, they're never going to teach me this again. But the next lesson, when I'm doing arrays and objects, I already have to know how to build a function. I have to know what a function declaration is. I have to know what a function expression is. I have to be able to know these things. They're not going to sit down and remind me what the definition is. They're going to expect me to already know how to use it. So that would be my other tip and recommendation, is to just know you're going to have to put that work in. So after I started implementing that, day 3, day 4, tended to go by it was a lot smoother. It was still a lot of work, but I'm getting the transition and how I'm gonna actually structure my day. I made sure to keep working out. So that was another struggle for me, is implementing working out, because I am finishing the class at 8 p.m. and you are sitting on a computer. I think General Assembly does a really good job of you know, mixing in lecture, lab activities, putting us in groups. Like, there's not been one time so far, you know, it's only been the first week. It's only the first week. There has not been one time that I'm like, bruh, I am in lecture all day. They do a very good job of like breaking up things, because I think they understand that like our attention span is only like so long. And to be honest, like, I'm enjoying it. So even though it's 12 to 8, I don't really feel it. Like, I'm like, okay, I have this lecture, then this lab, and then this and this. And they do a really good job of mixing things in. And once a week, we have what they call outcomes, which is like job support. So like helping us figure out, like, tailor our resume and things like that it's going to happen over the period of 12 weeks. So when we're done, hopefully we'll be job ready to start applying for jobs. Like I told you guys in my previous video, like, I need a job almost after. So I'm trying to pick up the pace with that, and I'll get into more detail with that once the weeks go on. But right now I can definitely say that my theme for the first week has definitely been humbling, very humbled, very blessed to be in this position. I did get a scholarship for women in tech, so that's also something to consider. So I did sign an ISA, but it's not the full amount. It's not the full amount of the program, because I did get a scholarship, so I did have some money off from the program, because I am a woman in tech that made a certain income prior to starting the program. So that's my recap of week 1. We're going into week 2, and I know they're just going to pick up the pace, and maybe around 7 o'clock my time, so 4 o'clock their time on Friday, they gave us something to do for the weekend. So I thought I was gonna have my weekends free, but apparently, and like, I thought I was gonna have my weekends free, and I could just use that time to like solely just catch up on what I know, so that come Monday, like, I'm prepped and I'm like ready to go. They give us an overview. They've already given us our overview of what we're gonna be learning next week, but I won't get the specifics of the day-to-day until maybe an hour to 30 minutes before class. But then they hit us at like 7 p.m. my time, which is 4 p.m. West Coast time. They hit us with oh, here's something for y'all to do on the weekend. Y'all thought it was free. Ha ha ha. And I'm just like, wow, I'm really not gonna have my weekends. I mean, they said this is an immersive, but I thought I was gonna have a little bit of breathing time. But you know, it is what it is. This is what I wanted to do. I joined the immersive for a reason. You know, if I wanted my weekends or wanted more free time, I could have done the part-time program, but I knew, like, I just wanted to get in, get it done, and like move on with my life. So that's part of the requirements. And it's been a journey. It's been an experience so far. I'm very curious to see what I know. It's a sprint, not a marathon. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I always mess that up, but essentially, I want to be here. This week definitely reaffirmed that I'm moving in the right direction. This is something that I want to do. So I'm very excited to take you guys on the journey with me. So like I said before, I will keep you guys updated on how it's going. Please like and subscribe, share the video for anybody that's interested in joining. And I hope to keep you guys more tuned into what I'm doing, and hopefully you guys have more questions or anything you want to know. I'd be more than willing to answer it. So have a great week. We're gonna survive this. We're gonna get through this, and I hope that whatever you guys are doing, that you're staying safe, you're staying comfortable, and you're staying blessed.